Live from the friendly confines of the Flannel Beaver Studios here in Northern Ontario. It is the return of the Roundtable. Yes, I know, finally, the Roundtable has come back to the airways. We got a lot to touch on, and you notice I'm not using the typical title of the Roundtable. We're going to get to that. There's a little bit of rebranding going on, but I'm not alone. Joining me from the SWC Plus group, yeah, a little lead there. I have good friends from all over the planet, actually. I'm going to start with Rob from the Generation X-Wing podcast. Oh, yeah, which one? From the Generation X-Wing podcast all the way in the west coast of Canada. How you doing, Rob? Good to see you again.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. So you're, okay, 9 a.m. where you are.
Yes, I am, and in quarantine.
We'll get to that in a bit. But let's shuffle over.
Day 12, folks. Day 12.
Jeez.
I think I'm seeing bright lights and animals crossing my path here. So.
Jeez. All right, we're going to move 1 hour time difference just east of you to our good friend Tim from the Nerd Room. Tim, how you doing?
Very well, man. Very well. I'm glad to be back on the Roundtable. We're rebranding it, actually. Tim and the Three Robs. Little foreshadowing for who's coming next year. And no, excited to be back here, guys. Always love podcasting with the three of you, and it's going to be a fun conversation.
Excellent. And of course, there's myself. I am in the Eastern time zone, and so 9 a.m. for Rob from the Generation X-Wing. Tim, it is 10 a.m. Myself, it's noon. But somewhere it's 5 p.m. and that's our good friend from the UK, Rob. Wade, how you doing?
I'm not dead.
You're not.
He's here.
Yeah, I'm still alive. It turns out you would be forgiven for thinking that based on if you only live on social media, you'd be forgiven for thinking I'd vanish without a trace. But I am alive, honest.
All right, yes, and Rob from the TSW podcast. But we'll get into that. There's been gaps and holes and everything else. We're going to get that in a little bit. So
don't call it a comeback.
No, really, yeah, really, you should.
No, not yet. So this is what's happening. The TSW Roundtable is now getting a rebrand. We are going forward. We are going to be the SWC Star Wars Commonwealth Plus Roundtable. So SWC Plus Roundtable, a slight rebrand. The Roundtable isn't leaving TSW. Well, kinda. We're gonna pick up our own feed. Where Rob Wade and I, we are not getting divorced. Mom and Dad still love each other. We're just seeing other people. So basically, what's happening? So for all the TSW listeners out there, what's going to happen going forward? We're gonna release simultaneously on my feed, the new feed for the SWC Plus Roundtable, and we will keep releasing as we do. Hopefully it'll be once a month now. We're getting back to our regular scheduled programming on the TSW feed. So that way, eventually, we'll do it for 6 months or a year, whatever Rob and I are discussing this. And that way, for those who love the Roundtable and want to continue listening to the Roundtable in the future, you have time to migrate. It's not like, oh, where's this Roundtable gone? It's gone. I can never find it now. And it's like buried under how many podcasts are out there now? 1 million? How many?
And 3. 1,000,003.
1,000,003, right. Thank you. That's the
crossed 1 million last week, and there's a few more now.
I saw that on CNN. They got a tally in the corner or something about podcasts.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it's for.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's for.
3/4 of those are Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to have a hard time.
The others are
Are you sure it's that low?
Joe Rogan.
Yes.
It was like that 2 weeks ago. Anyway.
Yes. So going forward, the Roundtable is still the same. We, TSW, Rob Wade and I, we're still in constant communication. Nothing's changing. We're just kind of expanding the brand, and going forward with that on the topic of expanding the brand. The Star Wars Commonwealth Network has undergone a change. Tim, I'm going to throw it to you because you kind of spearheaded this over the summer, and we've finally hashed out what this is going to be. So what's happening with the network or what's going on? Explain that to our good friends.
I can't tell if you're throwing blame at me or if no, I'm just kidding.
No.
No, so
this
guys,
is all new information to me.
Didn't know any of this. No, so as Rob has alluded to here, the network itself, the Star Wars Commonwealth Network, has undergone a bit of a change and more of an evolution, I like to call it, as opposed to anything else. And so the original intent of the network, as set up by Mark Godsif, by Rob here from Generation X-Wing, and Kyle over at Tumbling Saber, the original intent there was to bring together like-minded individuals, great podcasts, focused on Star Wars. Star Wars was a huge podcasting brand in 2016, 2015 in the build up to The Force Awakens. And really coming out of that was this enormous fan base that was hungry for content in the Star Wars world and Star Wars space. And so it only made sense to kind of continue to amalgamate podcasts and, not like Joe Rogan style podcasts, but good podcasters and and bring together kind of basically this nice foundation where, the individuals that pulled it together kind of curated through a great set of podcasts and created a community behind that. And the idea there was to support each other, promote each other, and grow together. And the SWC did exactly that, bringing on, up to, I think, 9 or 10 podcasts at one point there, and really created this great community where a lot of people felt that they could go and express their opinions and not feel like they were going to be pushed back, or felt that, there's no gatekeeping or anything like that within the Commonwealth itself. And then we get to 2019, 2020. And as you guys notice, those that listen, those have been with us for 4 or 5 years now, could see that the network itself has kind of gone quiet. And it just got to the point, I think, during this summer when we're all talking, we all had a lot of time to think because, most of us were locked away for the last 6 months or so. And so we got talking about, what's the next step evolution for the Star Wars Commonwealth? Is it a network? Is it something different? And we wanted to grow the brand of the SWC, hence the plus that's gone on to the side of it. Not that that's stealing or anything like that. It's an original thought. Just Disney got to it before we actually announced the rebrand here with the SWC Plus. So the idea behind that, and Rob is going to be, of course, running the roundtable, but this allows and expands the discussions that can happen here. It's not particularly Star Wars focused, and that's really one of the main things that we looked at with the network is it was so Star Wars focused. It's like we weren't seeing the growth that we wanted. And so what we've done is we transitioned the network itself to what we're calling a group, and there'll be more information of that comes. And kind of the kickoff of that campaign is really with the roundtable here. And the plus is, intended to be, we can talk about more than just Star Wars. We can pull in other podcasts from other networks or whatever, and have broader discussions on the roundtable, whether it be Star Trek, Marvel, DC, whatever you guys want to talk about. Again, I'm not running this, and I'm putting into words into Rob's mouth here, but ultimately the idea was to expand the brand, expand the scope, and then the network itself. It's kind of gone away, to be honest with you, but the camaraderie and the support is all still there. But it was a way to open up some avenues for podcasts to maybe explore different options, look at different networks. The network idea, at least in my opinion, isn't maybe quite as valuable as it was 3-4 years ago. And I think realistically, it's the idea of the group is to just continue with that camaraderie, that brotherhood, that bonding over Star Wars, over like-minded individuals, and really go forward with that. And so the network itself, you've seen most of the branding scraped off all the podcasts, but this group that we're going to kicking up is meant to capture the essence, I think the best part of what the network was, and that was the individuals that we're sharing it with. And so that's essentially, in a nutshell, where the network's gone and what is kind of coming at us forward and being led really by Rob and the roundtable here.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. And also, too, it gives us with our core group is still together. We are literally all over the planet, and a lot of us are really boots on the ground. I know I make my way to every celebration I can, or I have I got tickets for the next one, so it'll be my third in a row. I've been down to San Diego for the Comic-Con there. I'm usually at Toronto Fan Fair, and then we got Rob Williams out west. He's in the 501st, and he's literally he's trooping all over the place, and everybody involved. I think we have so much to offer, and especially a lot of these cons we're at, they're not always just Star Wars celebration. like obviously for me, that's a huge focus, right? That's my kind of thing. But a lot when I go to Fan Expo in Toronto or if Rob's at Fan Expo in Vancouver, if wherever we're at, there's a lot more events going on. And I think the Plus is more conducive to the nerd room, which you guys dabble on absolutely everything. Well, you Star Wars and Marvel and DC. As if anyone's heard the nerd room, you've heard the opening credits. And Generation X-Wing, which is you got. I saw your Rorschach test there the other day, Rob. I loved it. He opens up, he goes digging in his attic and he finds old toys. He opens up the box and he tags a bunch of people to it. He's, what do you see? I'm like, is that Perseus from Clash of the Titans circa 1981? That's amazing. Like, we have a lot more to talk about than Star Wars. Again, I'm an astromech builder. My heart's always with Star Wars. I am Star Wars through and through. And that's why the group is SWC Plus. Most of us are still Star Wars at our core, but it just gives us a chance. Like the next, I doubt there'll be another Endgame type phenomenon, but you never know. It gives us that opportunity. Hey, we might have a roundtable on, there might be a Star Trek rebrand. There might be, a He-Man rebrand. Oh, actually, there is coming up, actually. That's something else. But whatever we're into, it gives us the open door. Now, I'm going to throw it over to Rob Wade from the UK just to touch on our relationship with, again, TSW. Our relationship is fine. We're not, it's not like, oh, Rob's leaving. I'm Rob Cast myself. I'm not leaving the band. I'm not Paul McCartney in this thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we just want to make sure there's no hostility. Nobody's done anything untoward on any social media platform, which is causing this to happen. I could say that because there's been some issues in the past with other spots that we're not going to get into, but just so everybody knows, yeah, everybody's cool in the gang here, right? Everything's fine. I
don't know. I see Yoko Ono sitting behind your shoulder there.
Oh, yeah. No, that's... Yeah. Oh. That's her.
You, the astromech.
So, okay, shut up, Artu. Okay, Daddy's talking. So, Rob Wade, and we have to touch on this, and we knew we were going to talk. You got something in the back of your mind. TSW, there's been a pause.
Yes.
So, what exactly? Again, we don't need any. This isn't like under the spotlight here. This is the exclusive.
Spill the beans, Rob.
Yeah, what's going on?
Who did what to who and how?
You're dancing around this so gracefully, but Rob Williams has probably nailed the sentiment here. What do you want to know?
Yes. TSW,
Yeah.
We miss you.
Oh, well, isn't that nice? Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
yeah, I mean, there has been a pause, and the pause is significantly longer than I had in mind. I originally, so backing up a little bit, so in the run-up to TSW 200, which obviously was a nice big milestone show, which was one that I was very keen to get to, I wouldn't say unhappy with the content, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to put out episodes that I considered to be of high quality. And part of that was a lack of news. Part of that was a little bit of a dip in the frequency of communications from listeners, or at least a dip in the kind of consistency of that contact. So the way I've kind of, in short form, if we didn't get any emails, we were effed. If we didn't have any news, we were effed. If we didn't have any emails or news, we were double effed. So in the run up to 200, I was already kind of pretty convinced that there was going to need to be some sort of hiatus while we kind of rethought the format. And I had every intention, to be clear, when I said in 200 we will be back, I was fully expecting that to be true. And I'm happy to kind of to say that categorically, that at no point was I ever kind of, what's the word? It was never an attempt to kind of, there was no attempt to, there was no attempt to duplicity. There was no attempt to kind of, there's no clickbait for sure. But the original plan was relaunch at the end of March to coincide with the launch of Disney Plus in the UK, and to make it a seasonal show. And the first season, obviously, given the nature of Disney Plus's launch in the UK, was going to be an episode-by-episode breakdown of The Mandalorian Season 1, which I thought was a really good way to start off. And then we had this unprecedented global pandemic, which I'm sure you've read about in the papers.
Heard something
yeah,
about
it's
it.
been mentioned here.
Yeah.
So that was, it might not seem like that was necessarily the kind of thing that should derail a podcast that's recorded from home. But then I got told I needed to take in one of my relatives for an unspecified period of time, which ended up being 10 weeks. I was happy to do so, to be clear. Obviously, everybody on this call already knows about this, and I did kind of touch on it at the time. I was aware that there would be some sort of family stuff to deal with. There was never any kind of health dangers, but I appreciate everybody who reached out as if that was the case, which is, it's very, very kind of gratifying to get that kind of support. So by the time that situation changed, it was June. And in June, the idea of launching with episode 1, Mandalorian season 1, episode 1, 3 months after Disney Plus has launched, even in the UK, and up to a year after everybody else has seen it, became increasingly less, what's the word? Yeah, it became less of an idea I wanted to run with. And the simple truth at this stage is I haven't come up with a good one. And I've been trying very hard. I'm not to the point where I'm content to bring the show back exactly as it was before, because that sort of defeats the point of rethinking everything. Because if you just kind of go, hey, at 200, we're going to take a hiatus, and then 8 months later, it's like, hey, remember what you had before? Here it is exactly again. It wouldn't be good. I don't think the listeners would actually stick with it. I wouldn't blame them. I would lose interest very fast. This has happened. There is a pattern of this with my previous podcasts, which is, when I feel like we're just recording every Thursday or every 2 weeks because it's been 2 weeks or 1 week since the last time we recorded, and this is what we do, that's the point where I need to stop, because I just lose that kind of enthusiasm for whatever I'm doing. And I think it probably comes through. And I'd have to go back and listen, but I have a feeling that if you were to go back and listen to the last few episodes of Talk Star Wars with that last 5 minutes of my monologuing in mind, you would probably pick up on that, I would think. Now, this obviously, I'm not, I like to think of myself as a pretty honest individual, pretty upfront, but I obviously don't necessarily just volunteer every detail about my personal and professional and creative life, because that's not the same thing as being honest. That's just being.
I want to jump in just a little bit here, because I listen to your show like all the time when it was on. Obviously now I'm just listening to dead air, but
there are still old episodes.
I never. No, well, I've listened to them. I have to, but I never sensed that you got tired of it. But I knew that when you were talking in episode 200 about relying on the emails, and they were good emails. Yeah. I mean,
absolutely, not to take.
They were great discussions that came out of it. But I can see what you're saying, and it became a point. It's just I never sensed that you were bored of it or frustrated with it, but because your enthusiasm was still there. But when you talked about it, I was like, yeah, I get it. I totally understand.
Yeah,
what you're saying.
And it's important to say as well, like, one of the things that was not something I didn't enjoy. I enjoyed doing the actual content, and that's partly because I was on with somebody I've been friends with for many years. But actually, there were times where the subject matter of Star Wars, on a week like that, where it's no news and no emails, the subject of Star Wars actually becomes a constraint rather than something that enables the flow of conversation. And I think part of it as well was in the run-up to The Rise of Skywalker, and obviously anybody who's gone back and listened knows I had mixed feelings about that film anyway, which is neither here nor there. But anybody who can sort of remember that through, with as much objectivity as possible, will recall that actually the news cycle around that film was not on a comparison with previous years. There was very little in the way of bits and pieces kind of dropping through kind of news. There was not a lot of press stuff for it. It was, in comparison to previous Star Wars saga movies, it felt like it was a much more understated campaign in the run up to the film. And actually the film really kind of came and went without much hurrah. And it was almost like everybody was kind of, okay, just get it out there and then we're done.
Well, and I think that's a lot of it too. You know, as creatives, you know, this isn't our full-time job for any of us. No. This is a hobby. Yeah. And as creative individuals that want to put out consistently good content, and I found that I agree with you. At a point, Star Wars itself, and I'm just trying to be as honest as possible, it was almost like everyone took a deep breath after the Rise of Skywalker, right? And said, okay, we're going to let this go for a little bit. And then the Mando hit, and you know, I think things picked up again. But there does come a point or a crossroads that as a creator, and I've said the same thing, like if I'm no longer having fun, why am I doing this, right? Exactly. Like it's not like you're getting a paycheck that you're just kind of like clocking in, clocking out, you know what I mean? And someone's deposited money into your bank account. This is meant to be fun. This is meant to be an outlet. And this is meant to be a platform where you can share and enjoy a collective passion. And if you lose that, then I think it's you know, a big credit to you for stepping back and saying, okay, let's put this on pause until I can find, you know, my voice again, really.
Yeah.
Because just dragging on because you just want to click up the numbers of the podcast episodes is not healthy for you. It's not healthy for the listeners. It just doesn't work, right? And so taking that proactive step and saying, okay, we're going to put this on pause until we figure something out. You know, applause to you for doing something like that. It couldn't have been easy.
No, it's not, and it hasn't. It's continued to not be easy. And this is one of the things that's so nice about this network and this group is that you get a ton of support from people who, you know, from a number of people I would feel I have no right to get support from in terms of, you know, just sheer volume of kind of well wishes and gratitude and stuff. Even when we were talking about hiatuses, when the original hiatus was planned to be 6 weeks. And like I say, now we're at 8 months and I haven't come up with anything that really has kind of made me think, oh yes, that's it. That's the angle I need to take with this. And that's not to say that I will never. So this is another thing I want to kind of get out there is this conversation and this kind of monologue that I'm delivering here is not an admission that I'm done with anything with regards to, I mean, I've never considered my other podcasts, which some of them have been a year without a release. I've never considered those to be done, as in they are not finished. I don't think of my projects in that way. I think of them as like, yeah, you know what? I've got nothing right now, but there's not to say that I couldn't have something in the future where suddenly the idea of, you know, a new Crazy Train, although actually there's a guy who's taken that name and run with it, and I'm kind of happy to just let him go because even though he obviously doesn't do the basic Google research to find that that name's already been in use for 6 years, he seems to be doing okay. So, you know, I'm kind of tempted to
the irony of it, your approach to your podcast and your projects and your creative outlets is very George Lucas of you.
Oh, really?
You back burner it for a little bit.
Yeah.
A story's never done.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's just, I just have to point out the irony.
That's a fair point, actually. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you know, maybe that means that when I come to doing the next round of projects, I need somebody to tell me no occasionally, because I get a feeling that was a theme of the prequels. If I start doing the Crazy Train prequels, then somebody needs to step in and have a word.
I'm looking forward to
happy
podcast prequels.
What is it going to be? Emotionally 4 or emotionally?
I guess 13.
I don't.
13 makes sense, right?
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, emotionally. Well, you want to lead up to it, so emotionally 10, 12.
Yeah, I guess
the prepubescent era.
You don't want to go too short a distance between 14 and the previous, because otherwise it's like, well, nothing really drastically has changed. So I guess like emotionally 7 or 8 is probably like a good one to kind of come in. So okay, now there's like it's a generational gap. But
right.
Yeah. So that's kind of
I appreciate it. Then it's awesome. We appreciate the honesty. And again, and it's all of this has culminated into the perfect storm. And again, that's why we're here. We're not gone. We all took a step back. The end of the Star Wars saga again, you know, was after Rise of Skywalker. All of a sudden, a global pandemic, the just lack of conversation, and we all have to deal with our own things, and we're all trying to live with this. And also, the elephant in the room too. And again, not to dwell on this, but when we as a group lost our good friend Steve Kirk, really when after he passed away. When we had our first meeting, because we have like a small council for the network and now the group, and we're still together, like that kind of oversees everything. We had a Zoom meeting, and I remember somebody saying, "Oh, yeah, this is the elephant in the room." Like, I think it was Rob Way that mentioned, like, no one wants to talk about it, but nobody was the same after that. And it kind of, there's a lot of it that that hurt. I mean, and there's a lot of it there was a lot of healing that had to be done, a lot of things. And it's one of those things, especially for myself with the roundtable. He was a huge part of it. I mean, like, we did that live show from Chicago, like we did he was always, Rob Williams, you can attest to this. He's always right there whenever, hey, I got a trivia night coming up on Generation X-Wing. Like, he was right there. Like, he was money if you needed him. And,
he was the guy too, that every celebration and every SDCC especially, like, I've got exclusives that he sent me. I've got a Ryan meandering piece of art of all the forms of Captain America framed to my left here that Steve rolled up and sent me, unsolicited from my end. He just wrote me and said, you have to have this. I had no idea what it was. I popped it open and I was like, whoa. And that was just the type of guy he was. And you're right. Like, that hurt a lot. That was shocking. That was, like, to the point, like, we communicate via Twitter, and Rob Cass called me when that happened, like on the telephone.
Yes. On the actual ring. Yeah.
And so it was kind of weird, because I was like, oh no, like something must be wrong here.
Because normally, and again, we're all over the world. So we have like different feeds. We have our feed for like our group now, the SWC Plus group, like the council, the guys that oversee everything kind of. And then we have the showrunners, and then we have like one for all our Knights of the Commonwealth, which are still there. And they're all, so we have different levels. And because it's easier for me, instead of, I wonder if Rob Wade is up. Oh, I'll just drop it. I'll message him, and then he'll get to it when he gets to it. But that was one of those times where it was like, well, I can't, like, call me right away, or like what you do? Like, and it was one of those, so we're all doing that. And I remember I reached out to a few of the Knights too in the moment, because I knew, Tim, I had your number, and, there was a couple of Knights that I know personally. I mean, like a Riley, I called him immediately too. And it just, there's some people I just didn't want. I mean, I was trying to get it out as fast, because I knew on the feed, Rob Williams, you knew, Rob Wade, you knew, and then, but Tim wasn't responding. So I knew you were you might've been doing something away from your phone. And it was just it's one of those things. There's a few people I didn't want to hear outside of our group. It just seems weird, right? And again, it was just one of those. And again, for Rob Williams, you talked eloquently about it before, and I know it's not. I mean, it's, again, we're just kind of. It was a perfect storm of COVID, the end of the saga. We lost Steve. I mean, there's a lot going on, and I think for me personally, coming back and doing this when I was after that, all that happened, was kind of like, I don't know. It's just one of those. It was a hard reminder. It was like one of those things. Like, do I want to do something that's going to be? And you know what? I got to a point where I was like, you know what? No, I don't. Steve would be very unhappy with me if he thought I was not doing something because I was feeling sad for myself. You know what I mean? It was just one of the, he would be very disagreeing with that. And yeah, it's just, again, not to bring the whole podcast down, but again, this is just one of this is where we're just laying it all on the table for everybody.
It's a bit of a state of the union, right? Of everything that's going on. And to pull the curtain back a little more, even beyond that, and you touched on it, Rob, well, both Robs, about this global pandemic and all that. And it's an interesting topic that we've really on the Nerd Room veered away from talking explicitly about, because, our podcast is meant to be a bit of an escapism. It's meant to be, your minute away from reality and diving into this world that we love and enjoy talking about. But funny enough, like, and you touched on it perfectly there, Rob, that you think that doing something like this from home during a pandemic should just be, okay, we're just going to do that. Like, that just makes sense, right? This is your guys' hobby. But personally too, it's been an interesting ride, because as a listener, you may think that, it's easy now. You guys are all at home, but it's been this weird struggle through the entirety of the pandemic to, focus on the creative outlet at times. And although everyone is searching for things to do in their house, I found that the distraction from outside the house has been, at times very heavy. And that really weighs into, your creative outlet. That really stamps that out. And so you end up with this kind of foggy mindset. and trying to focus on something that is creative and requires you to take a step back from your own mindset, it's difficult at times to put together, something that you feel proud of and that you feel engaged in.
Yeah.
And I can fully appreciate that, Rob, what you were saying, just that it's not as easy as maybe people might think it could be.
It's a reasonable supposition to kind of exactly like you outlined, to believe that a home-based hobby is just going to be easy because everybody's at home now. But actually, I've never stopped working throughout this. I've been remote working since this whole thing. In fact, actually, since before we all locked down in the UK, I was already remote working ahead of, because we kind of anticipated that something was going to come along the pipe like this. So I've never actually stopped the Monday to Friday 9 to 5. I mean, the hours vary depending on how much I sleep in, but I tend to make the time up at the end of the day, which is the other thing as well, is it throws, when you have a routine around your commute, for example. So like me, I know exactly what train I would be on in the morning. I know exactly what train I'd be on in the evening. I have a rough idea of when I'd walk through the door. I have a rough idea of when I would eat. And then I would have X time until I went to bed, which would be relatively consistent depending on what I was doing, to do stuff. And that might be creative things. That might be just unwinding. But when you're remote working, it's very easy to slip into that kind of, I'll just do half an hour extra just to make my life easier tomorrow. But that half an hour will cascade and have an effect on every single part of the rest of your day very, very easily without really kind of factoring in. It's a lot easier to sort of factor that in when you have a more sort of tightly bound routine. And to expand on what you said about the kind of the focus and stuff, I'm not going to mince words when I say that there have been times for, mentally for me where this period has been brutal. And it's not to say by any stretch that I've had it worse than anybody in the world, because I'm very aware that, just by the fact that I've been working the whole time, I'm luckier than a lot of people. And I'm fully conscious of the fact that I could have it so much worse than I do. But it doesn't mean my life hasn't been hard in other ways. And while I've been locked down, and while we're in lockdown again in the UK, but there was that period between the two where you weren't locked down, but life wasn't normal. So I kind of called it like the stay down period. It's like you lock down and you stay down, and then you lock down again, and then there'll be a stay down again, probably around Christmas time. But it's been tough. And, and one of the things I think I'm actually I'm not going to lie when I say I'm actually kind of relieved that I haven't had to grind through weekly production of something that I wasn't the most proud of I could be, because I think actually it's freed me up a little bit I've actually started to think about other things I could do that might not be creative. They might just be things I've meant to do for ages that I've actually had a chance to do now. And, it's difficult to not produce stuff. And especially when, like I said, I have this kind of warm, well-wishing people who I'm sure they missed the show, and I'm disappointed that I can't be there for them in that regard. It does weigh on me. But at the same time, I feel like they've never been more options of ways to spend your time just as well, if not better, for a start. And I don't think that if I were to produce stuff during this time, it would be any good anyway. And so I'm worried that, I would worry that actually all that goodwill that I've built up over the years by doing what I can to kind of do the best job I can would just be eroded anyway through just because I wouldn't be doing my best work. I say work.
Well, put simply, your hobby has become a chore.
In some sense,
when your mind is wrapped around that, like it just it's difficult.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at now, and getting to, how now that we're on this COVID thing, Rob Williams, you're currently in lockdown, but you are healthy. Yeah, I'm looking at you. You look great.
Really do.
Fantastic, really.
Illusion. I don't know what filter you use.
It's really a shame this is a podcast.
I know, right? Don't get me started.
I'll put my clothes back on.
But that's what I wanted to mention to you. Talk to you, Rob. I wore I got my brand new trooping tunic because I'm in the Astromech Builders Club, and because I can't wear it anywhere, and it's really It's really upsetting. And you guys are the ones that could appreciate it. 501st. How is hospital visits? Can you even do that now? Like, I don't. Can you touch on, like, obviously there's no convention, so touch on what's going on. What are you guys doing?
Okay, so I've been listening to you guys really intently and taking notes furiously down here. And when we talk about COVID, first of all, I'm in lockdown. This is day 12 of 14. This is the second time I've been in lockdown. My son's daycare had an outbreak and shut the whole place down, and it is what it is. He's negative. I'm fine. It's just we do our job. It's our responsibility to take care of others 100%. Outside. That's why I haven't seen grandparents, all that sort of stuff. I'm a frontline worker. I'm in the schools all the time. So is Anil, and we are always at risk of exposure every day we walk into that building, despite all the requirements that we have, and we have some strong walls and strong defenses up to prevent this. But it was not impossible. We had a case in our school after week 3, and it's just, that's what happens. And I'm not excusing it. I'm just stating what's happening. So when we go focus down to our hobbies, since we all don't meet in person, all 4 of us go onto a Zoom, and we take our work home. As a teacher, even before COVID, when the invention of the email, all of a sudden we became accessible 24/7, and that you have to adjust and try to learn how to balance your life out. Now with COVID, you are 25/7, and it's just, where do we find the time? We have to do it. It's, as Rob was saying, we have to adjust our schedule accordingly. Half an hour here, dominoes everywhere else. And how much do you really want to sit in front of a computer screen and Zoom for 2, 3, 4 hours for just work, and then do a podcast for 2, 3, 4 hours? We podcast 2 episodes a week. 2 episodes recording, and that's an hour each one. So it becomes 2 hours, 2.5 hours, plus a little banter back and forth. So we're on 3 hours, and it's tough for a lot of us. For me, not so much, because I enjoy talking to people outside my world. I don't connect a lot because I'm always in the school. But Jamie's working from home. Steve works partially from home, and Neil's, again, I said, like, he's a teacher, so he's bouncing back and forth, and we all have our families want to get connected to. So that takes priority. Families first, job second, hobby third. And so it starts to chip away at the limited hours that you have when you have time for this hobby, and a hobby that we still truly enjoy. It makes me so happy. A 1 hour podcast for me to edit takes me 3 hours to edit. A 10-minute video for the Outer Rim Rookie takes me 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours to edit. That's a lot of time. And when you've got maybe 2 hours a day after you put little guy back to bed, and you just got to get lunches together, get all this stuff, it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of time out of your schedule. And it's just a lot. And so I'm sounding gloom and doom here because I'm not stopping the podcast, but it does, like, Anil's had to take a step back because he's have to focus on what's important for him. And so he pops in here and there. Jamie's had to step back every once in a while. Steve's had to step back, and it's just, that's the way it goes. And so I've got the streak going, and I want to keep it running. But when it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. That's all we can do. So when you got to 501st stuff, I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody in the 501st, but it amazes me. I'm connected to a lot of people outside our garrison all over the world. It amazes me how they're still trooping. It amazes me how they're still doing parades. It amazes me how they're still going to all these places and just high-fiving everybody. And we're here in Vancouver. We do the rare hospital visit, and those hospital visits are so organized and so structured where there is no chance of that child getting sick because it's almost behind glass in a way. And those are, like, rare. And there's only maybe 2-3 people that go. There's all this protocol, even before COVID. There's this protocol of how you clean your gear and all that sort of stuff. And so we've had in this year probably 5 troops, I think. I can't remember when our fan expo was. And I've been to very few of them because I just can't do the risk. And so I'm stuck, like, well, there's my show. I don't have a show to do. And so all of a sudden I was so fortunate enough to have Nia Nunn fall into my lap and get access to building. And now I'm genuinely excited. I'm like so hyped to build something. Before I was scared to do it. Now I'm like thrilled to do it. And it's because now I've got not only a show, but I have a hobby. I have a costume to build, and I can connect with my friends, even through distance, like Terry Chu, who's helped me with the mask. He's working on it as we speak. He's going to give me some stuff for the show, and he's so talented. And it's just like, my hobby can continue a little bit despite the limited hours I have. And so 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 50 minutes here, 50 minutes. That's all you do. And that's all it is. A beach is just little grains of sand. And when the final product's there, it's a lovely beach. So when we talk about podcasting, it is really tough because COVID has affected everything. Now, fortunately, and goes to the second thing I wanted to talk about, Star Wars podcast. We, from the very beginning, we're going on 6 years as of January, 6 years of a podcast. We, from the very beginning, knew that a Star Wars podcast was not going to be in the works. We just knew all Star Wars all the time is not it. We can't talk about Star Wars for 52 weeks of the year. We just can't do it. We have other things. We have other interests. And so when we talk about that Rorschach test box, as you were talking about it, I was looking at it, I'm like, that's the perfect analogy of what our show is. It's everything. It's a box of just random junk that we remember from our youth, and we just throw it out there, and hey, remember this? It becomes a South Park. Remember this? Remember Perseus? Remember? It becomes like just four guys getting together, talking about what excites us, what do we enjoy, remember the 80s, remember the 90s. And every so often we just talk about how it connects with today. Like we just did Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We get to do trivia shows still, and Steve Kirk is the 2-time champion of the Kneel Before Zod trophy. Mm-hmm. I actually did a whole list, like a Stanley Cup of who's won, and Tim, you're on there too, by the way. Yes, you are. So it's
2016.
But it's just, I will put the list up soon. But those are the things that I enjoy, doing trivia with my friends, and then getting to edit and listen back and have fun with it and do little funny sounds and commercial breaks and weird little things like that. It's a fun hobby. So when we talk about Star Wars, I don't know how these new Star Wars podcasts are able to survive for a long period of time without saying something somebody else has. So you rely on the personality. Steele Saunders has a personality. He can sell, ice to the Inuit. It's just, he has such a great personality to talk about Star Wars all the time. Everybody, I know that Skyhoppers, they focus a lot on literature. You find that hobby. Sandcrawlers, oh my God, those guys do so well just talking about the figures. And it's just, it's entertaining. It's so much fun. So you have to find that niche. So this new Star Wars podcast, what are you talking about? What is your focus? How are you going to stand out amongst the thousands and thousands of our Star Wars podcasts? Because it's got to stand out. And it's got to last for more than a year, more than 2 years. How long are you willing to do this? And that's why, going back to our show, 6 years, and I would say maybe a third of that Star Wars. We did the Mando. I was going back to what Rob Wade was talking about. We did a Mando play-by-play, and we did it like months after the first episode came. But you know what? We wanted to talk about it, so we stuck with it. And it was old news, and sometimes that makes a difference. I don't listen to old Star Wars news podcasts. I don't go back and listen to the old news because it's old news. It's done. So I want to listen to new stuff. But sometimes a little play-by-play of an episode, I enjoy that. I'm listening to Simpsons episodes where they go episode by episode by episode. It's 4-finger discount. I'm giving you a plug because they're awesome. But it's just, I go back. And those shows are like 20 years old almost. And it's just like, you know what? I'll listen to it because remember when, that sort of attitude. So that's why we stick with our format. And I get it. I get why the network is changing, because you have to evolve. I still like connecting with you guys. I still like meeting up and talking about Star Wars. It's still so much fun, but my life is other than Star Wars. I have so much other things other than pop culture. I have other things that I want to do, and that's what's important. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah, well, no, you did. Go ahead, Tim.
was gonna say it's funny just listening to all this, and I don't want anyone to think that this is like a we need a pat on the back type thing or anything like that. But it's such a double-edged sword with podcasting because there's been at times during this whole pandemic that I've found it difficult, but it's also been my anchor.
Yes,
it's been the thing that has been the most consistent in my life outside of my family. It's the most consistent thing in my life right now. Yeah. I work 6 feet away from where I'm sitting and where I podcast in the same room, and I've been doing that since February. But I look forward to every Tuesday when I get together with Troy, Sanjay, and Carlos, and we sit and we just talk about and we escape and that was the whole essence of the podcast, right? And it doesn't come without its difficulties, but at the same time, it's been there for us through all of this, and that's been an important piece of it. As difficult as it is at times, it is not a burden, I don't feel, on any of us. It's an anchor, it's an outlet. And I think with any hobby or anything that someone does, if the gym's your thing, you're going to feel that weight sometimes. I don't want to do this. This is difficult. Yep. I can't go to the gym. You know what I mean? And so none of this is about, we want you to feel sorry for us. It's just an honest conversation about podcasting, where the network is, where we are as individual podcasters and creatives, and just kind of what the next steps are. But podcasting itself is truly something that I will never give up. Yeah. We've been doing it. We're working into year 5, and we've hit an episode every single week in that 5-year span, with the exception of 1 week. Which we chose not to, and that was earlier this year because of the events that were going on, particularly down in the States.
Podcasting has given me more connections and more experiences than before. I mean, just Anil.
It's unbelievable.
Anil's been one of my closest friends since 2005, since we worked at the Disney store. Yes, we did. 1995. Oh. Sorry, holy crap. It's been a long time. There's a gap there. The Disney bug just kind of zapped in my
head. Few years.
What did they even sell?
Oh, it was like Lion King videos and watches and animation cells. It was before Toy Story. It was like Pocahontas, all this sort of stuff. Okay. You haven't lived until you hear Colors of the Wind 4 times an hour. I'm
for
an 8-hour shift.
I enjoy that song, but I think 4 times an hour for an 8-hour shift might be a bridge too far.
But Neil's been like one of my closest friends since '95. Steve and Jamie, I just met out through the podcast. Jamie was a listener, and then as we got to meet, he was a 501st member. We got to meet him, and he was like a cool guy. Steve, he was at an armor party, and we were talking to Steve, and we're all looking at his tattoos and like, that dude's cool. And so after talking to him, he just started to get, you're cool. It just became so awesome. So they become some of my closest friends. And like Anil's coming by later on just to do a little drop off for my son. He's giving him a present because my son's birthday was just last week during COVID. We couldn't have a party. We couldn't have stuff happen. So he's coming to support. And it's just, this is what we do as friends. And I miss not sitting next to them. I listen to old episodes, and the banter and the connection is so different. It's a lot more relaxed before. Now we're just looking at each other, waiting for the finger, little pauses, like the interruptions. We don't mean to interrupt each other, but it's just hard not to because you don't have that sixth sense of somebody's wanting to talk. So.
Yeah. Well, as much as what Tim was saying and everybody else with as much as Tim, you touched on, the podcast has been your anchor, and it's been your bit of reality from whatever life was in 2019. The Nerd Room and all the other podcasts that keep going out there have been the anchor for a lot of other people too. Like it's been like, it's like, it's not Star Wars, but we're Rowan and I, we're the same type. We haven't met, it's just something we record every Monday. It's just something we do. We haven't missed an episode since we started in 2016, and we're episode 242 last week. And for us, I sit down with my friend. And again, that's a wide open podcast. So we're not chained by any restrictions, especially content, adult or otherwise. So we get, the world's our oyster, but we've had discussions where it's like, you look at your numbers and the numbers don't lie. Like, it's like, there are people waking up Thursday morning and wherever if their commute is from their coffee maker to their desk, or if they're actually have to go out and be on the front lines, there are people out there that are listening, or at least downloading. I mean, they're leaving their devices on for whatever reason. You know what I mean? So if Roman and I, if Tim and his crew and Rob Williams and the Generation X, if for whatever reason, if that's helping, then great. It's like we've had to remind ourselves, like, ooh, should we take a break? There's a lot going on. It's like, you know what? I know I'm looking at the numbers. There's a lot of people out there that need this on their Thursday morning commute. Again, regardless of where it is or wherever they're doing. If they're lying in the bath listening to Roman and I don't know why you would do that, but it's just, yeah, boy, howdy.
It's me. I'm one of those guys.
So again, that's where we're at as podcasting. And this isn't this, and as a group and still as a Star Wars community, Rob Williams, you were talking about all, like, you know, the Skyhoppers deal into literature, and then you got the Sandcrawlers with collecting and vintage, and you're the 501st, and Tim and you guys in all your collecting and your huge, massive pop culture universe, and then I'm an astromech builder. Whatever you need, especially Star Wars, we got you covered. If you have any questions about anything whatsoever, whether it's just anything, we know a guy.
We will pretend to know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
I'll do a quick Google search and get back to you.
Exactly.
We're one lesson ahead, as always.
Wikipedia.
But we will have at least one person in the know in the group. Like, there's somebody that's like, we got a guy. You know how everybody has like, oh, I need to get my plumbing fixed. Oh, I got a guy. If you need anything in Star Wars, we got a guy.
That joke would have went somewhere else on the Roman podcast.
It would have. Boy, howdy. So again, not to be doom and gloom. This is just, hey, the roundtable's back. It's going to be on a separate feed. Again, we're still going out, and everybody, and of course, this group of ours, everybody stepped up and said, "Hey, we'll throw it out on our feed as a bonus episode, just to get the word out there." That, because for a personal note, the roundtable for me has been it's been a gift. It's been I'm in with you guys. I'm like this in our solar system. I'm like this little moon that was orbiting around TSW, and now, you mean, we want to, like, now it's going to be the SWC Plus roundtable, and now it's going to be, we're going to have our own little orbit. I'm hoping it to be a hub for everybody to come and enjoy, and not to be poo-pooing anybody else, but we really pride ourselves on the positivity here. We should mention, since the last roundtable came out, we awarded Daniel Thorpe out in the UK. Yes. He became our 2020, which is now called the Steve Kirk Positivity Award from the SWC Plus network. He joins Neil Lowry. So if you can imagine the positivity, like,
great company.
Yeah, exactly. That is Hall of Fame.
Tough one to match next year.
Numbers in the rafters. So anybody out there that's looking at that plaque going, "Ooh, I might have a shot," look at those two gentlemen, because it's just, they inspire us, and they inspire us to keep doing what we're doing. So for me, Rob Wade, thank you so much. Mark Godsif, who started it all, like, with this show was just a thing, and now I'm ready for it to be, bigger.
Leave the nest.
Yeah. Leave the nest, maybe not, but this is...
Well, yeah, Rob, you and I have talked about this behind the scenes, and this is actually something we floated as as an idea for some time. And actually, it's quite nice in a way that all of these events have coalesced in this making sense to be the thing we do it. This is the reason we do it, because now it makes sense. But before, there was an argument that this could always have been its own feed. And, it was just something we didn't do. And now it is a thing it makes sense to do. So that's kind of nice, because it's always been the Commonwealth Roundtable. That nothing has really changed in that respect, because it's always been about uniting. The initial kind of thing was, let's talk to the TSW patrons. I think initially the intent was to kind of bring those in and to talk to myself and Mark, I think, in the first couple of episodes, and then the idea would have been that Steve and Paul might have joined for the occasional one. Didn't work out that way, sadly. they were a bit less available than we would have liked them to be at times. Not to, for perfectly legitimate reasons, not to throw shade.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But as we've as the scope of the show has changed over time, this has made more and more sense. And actually, probably we could have pulled the trigger on this in the last couple of years at any point, and nobody would have been like, "Why are you doing that?" Because it makes perfect logical sense when you think it through.
Absolutely. And again, that's what this is. I would polish, and basically for me, I would make the show, record the show, edit it, make a show graphic, have it, and have a synopsis, and I'd hand it off to Rob Wade. I'm like, that's yours. Do whatever you want with it. And it's just, you just let me know when you're going to release it so I can go on my social media and do that. So it's not, there's no, especially, this is our point for this episode. This is not woe poor us. We realize the whole planet's been going through a thing. It's not you, it's us. We're not, and again, like I joked about earlier, mom and dad are still together. We love each other. We're just not, we're still in love with each other.
Yeah, we do.
We're seeing other people.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go around the horn real quick. And, if you're not putting anything out at the moment, just, if people are interested or want to see if you have anything on the back burner or anything on the front burner or anything going on, Rob Wade, people, I know people miss you. So if they want to, you separated yourself from social media a little bit, but where your feeds are still all up.
Oh yeah, they're still there.
Yeah. So where can people hear you? Whether it's
your address,
old episodes or yeah, exactly.
Yeah, phone number would be nice as well.
In the background.
Last 3 digits on the back of your card would be great.
Yes, yeah. That would be helpful. Yes.
So I guess if you're really kind of missing the sound of my voice, and Christ alone knows why you would, but if that is you, I've been fortunate enough over the last 7 years to appear on about 400 shows across various different platforms. And the most frequent of those is on Emotionally 14. So emotionally14.com, I should say, is not going anywhere. That is still, I don't mean that in a sort of, it's not going anywhere. I mean, it's going to be there for the foreseeable future. I'm going to continue, even if I'm not taking a public sort of front of house role as a host or regular guest or anything like that. I'm still the editor of the site. I'm still the editor I'm still in charge of the YouTube channel. I'm still going to be putting out content. I'm still going to be endorsing shows, and actually I'd probably look to increase the number of shows I'm endorsing, particularly as it feels like it would be nice to kind of showcase some of the other great people out there who might be doing stuff that I think people would enjoy if they like our stuff. So emotionally14.com is that website. It has an associated YouTube channel. There are 3 podcasts I've been, again, privileged enough to put out hundreds of hours of content for over the years. Talk Star Wars is obviously the one we've touched on quite a bit in the last hour or so. The Crazy Train, the one with the picture of the train on it, because, again, guy can't Google, not my fault, but, he's doing okay, so I don't want to...
Oh, you think you're mad? Bonfire. There is actually a couple of Robcast podcasts out there. Man, I'm like, I think I shared it. I shared those images with you guys in our group. I'm like,
come on, man.
Someone's getting sued.
Yeah. It's the guy's name is the Robcast.
What gives you the right?
Yeah, it's like,
sir,
that's my name. Yeah. That is my.
Listen, that's with a guy who's named Rob Williams, I'm not going to complain about anybody stealing anybody's name here.
Well, quite. Yeah, there are far more famous Rob Wades than me as well. So I can't really.
There's a lot of Robs on this podcast right now too.
This is Rob Heavy.
Yeah, well,
it's a bit of a Rob
we wanted to talk to you about that, Tim.
Excellent. So, hey. Rob Williams, where can the good people find you?
Well, Generation X-Wing, anywhere like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the podcast itself. We got last week's episode. We did the Brooklyn 9-9 GXW versus Trivia. 9-9. Yes, it was so much fun. 2 episodes of 9-9, and we had so much fun on that one. Next week, we're talking, by the time this comes out, Mandalorian, we're doing episode 1 and 2, and doing a look back at Sean Connery.
Oh, I look forward to that.
Yes, exactly. But you can also find we have a YouTube page, Generation X-Wing YouTube page, where the Outer Rim Rookie is being shown, building a Nia Nun costume, and right now I'm kind of in hiatus because I'm waiting for stuff to come in. So I'm waiting for the mask to get done. I'm waiting for my flight suit to get in from, I think it's Germany or Sweden, one of the two. And I'm just waiting for that, and then we'll get back to building. So, but we have Ree's collection up there too. More's for the
Keeping it easy.
Yeah, I love it. I'm still wanting to work on that shirt. I have so many ideas for that. Other than that, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that great stuff. So, and
definitely check it out, Generation. Oh, I had a chance to talk to Neonine there, in the guy in the suit. Shoot, you talked to him on Twitter. The not the voice.
Oh no.
But the actual
okay, yes. I'm sorry. I'm blanking what you're talking about. Yes, the actor. Now I see. This is my thing. I don't remember names, and he invited me to his group, and oh my God, why can't I remember?
Oh, I know. I got his autograph, and I talked to him. He actually did the work on Fraggle Rock.
Oh yeah, he's a wonderful puppeteer. He did Ree's as well. So
yes.
Yeah, I feel embarrassed that I don't remember.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Tim. You Google that.
Come on.
Because I'm gonna. So Tim, where can the good people find you? I think this is gonna sound very familiar, but go right ahead.
Maybe I'll try to switch it up here. No, of course, the Nerd Room. You can find myself and the crew there every single Thursday, dropping an episode about Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and beyond. And guys, we've been going through an evolution ourselves, and we've been having a lot of fun this year, actually, even in the absence of big films, Marvel, Star Wars, DC, all of it's gone from this year. And we've been going back and doing retro reviews of films. We just finished off with a retrospective discussion on V for Vendetta, which we had a ton of fun with. And we've been just changing up a little bit, focusing a bit more on retro toys and doing look backs, and also, taking a few nuggets of information that we're getting from the world of Star Wars, Marvel, DC. So you can find everything that we do over the nerdroom.net. You can find us on social media, or me on social media at the Nerdroom on Twitter. And then you can head over to our joint Instagram page where we're posting a lot of our hunt captures and everything that we're doing over there at the Nerdroom on Instagram. So check us out every Thursday. We're endorsed over by Emotionally 14 as well. So we appreciate that every single week, Rob. And yeah, guys, it's different, but it's a good different, I think. And look out for 2021. We're giving ourselves a slight tweaks, like rebrand as we go into that. We got some exciting things coming up into the new year here, guys. So we're really looking forward to that. So
Mike Quinn,
it's been a blast.
Mike Quinn, thank you.
So what?
And Mike, if you're listening, I do apologize. I actually met him at Hamilton Comic-Con last year before all this COVID stuff started, and he actually, what a great guy. While you're signing your autograph, he'd take your time, talk to you, like we're talking about Fraggle Rock and all sorts of excellent stuff. Like he's just, and a little dude too. He's made for puppeteering.
Oh yeah,
he's
a wonderful person. I didn't get a chance to meet. I know that Jamie and Steve did, but when he came to Victoria, but yeah, wonderful person. Like you said, he's one of the first people to like my actual Outer Rim rookie Instagram page. So it was really cool when that guy is actually liking you. So
nice.
Fantastic. So myself, me? Where? Oh, sure. Okay, I guess. You can find me at Robert MMCast on Twitter and Instagram. Also, I do a weekly show, not Star Wars, not for kids, and not for a lot of people, but if you're adventurous, come check out the Roman Podcast. We're just Google us. We're everywhere. We're also endorsed by Emotionally 14 as well. We're in that lovely group. So, also too, there hasn't been any new posts lately, but if you go to the hashtag RobsR2, you can see my R2. Please don't poo-poo on my hashtag. Basically what I'm doing is I have it on a little card, and I've been going out, and anybody that's been taking selfies with R2 when I go to an event, I'm like, hey, if you're so inclined, use the hashtag RobsR2, and then that way I just started doing it recently, so I got a kind of I got a record, a social record of
collection.
Of my trooping and everything else with my R2.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm sure just watch for a lot of other stuff going on. I don't know if we're going to rebrand the Facebook page and all the other stuff coming up, but we got lots more coming. So it's just so nice to be back. And I promise you the next roundtable will be more like the usual roundtables. And we might even get around to finishing our retrospectives because we got a few more films to go through there.
It's our next step into a larger world. That's kind of what I figured it to be.
That's the rebrand it, dude. So. I like that.
Excellent. So, until I can actually say this, until next month, and for Tim, Rob, and any other Robs out there, thanks for coming back, and we'll see you next time. Later.